Hello, teachers, and thank you for bringing stories to your classroom. Today's story is from Peru, and it has a lot to do with the power of names and not forgetting who we are. In the description below, there's a link to a little lesson activity if you want to dig into this story further. It has a worksheet that your students can use to explore the meaning of their own names. There are also some discussion questions and a challenge for them to ask their parents where their name came from. I encourage you to use these activities to support the idea of the story. But if you don't have time, just sit back and enjoy the story. Thank you again for bringing storytelling and imagination and curiosity to your students. I hope you enjoy the story. Before we begin, we are going to breathe like a bear. I want you to imagine a big, brown, grizzly bear, or black bear, or panda bear, whatever bear you want to imagine. And as you breathe in, the bear gets bigger. And as you breathe out, the bear gets smaller. You're ready to breathe like a bear. Here we go. Breathe in. Breathe out. Ooh. Let's grow that bear. One more. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let's get started. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go with Miss Mo. Two more. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go with Miss Mo. Last time. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go with Miss Mo. Shh. The young woman had forgotten her name. She had forgotten everything. The day in the beautiful mountains of Peru had started like any other. Kila, the young shepherdess, was taking care of her llamas as she did every day for her family. She knew this mountain, she knew the sky, she knew the rivers like she knew the name of every single llama. But then the air changed. First it went very still. And then it was filled with almost an electricity. A storm blew in like she had never seen before on that mountain. And the llamas panicked. They scattered and they started running towards home, for they knew the way. And Kila followed behind them. And then she saw one llama split off from the herd and run into a narrow crack, almost a cave in the mountain. Every llama meant food for her family. And so she followed that wandering llama and trusted the rest to get home. She walked a little bit into the dark cave, but could still feel the sun and the sky behind her. She called out to the llama by name. It did not answer her, but someone else did. Have you lost something? The voice was deep and gravelly. She whirled around, and there he was, a tall man with glasses and his face almost covered with a shaggy beard. Everything about him seemed shaggy, but he also seemed kind. He said, "I know this cave. I can help you find what you're looking for." And so they began to walk down into the cave. The path grew slippery and wet. And the man said to Kila, "It will be safer and faster if you climb on my back. I know this path." And so Kila got on his back, and he was right. He knew the path. No matter how steep or slippery it got, he never lost his footing. Kila looked back towards the opening of the cave, and she could see the light growing dimmer and smaller. She turned back around, and something had changed. The man's feet sounded differently as they hit the cave floor. She realized that instead of holding on to his back, she was sitting up as if she were in a saddle. And as the little prick of light from the mouth of the cave completely disappeared, they reached the bottom. She slid off the man's back and screamed as he stood up, no longer a man. The shaggy hair that had been his beard covered his body. He stood and roared. He was a bear, with markings around his eyes like the glasses he had worn as a man. He didn't roar in anger. He simply looked confused. Kila backed away in fear. He raised his paws and he shook his head and said, "No, I won't hurt you. I'm so sorry. I know that I probably meant to help you, but this cave, it makes us forget. And now I don't know why you're here, and I don't know how to help you leave. I'm so sorry." And confused, the bear turned and walked into the dark cave, leaving Kila to cry and wonder and panic. She was so afraid. She tried scrambling around the cave, tried to find the light of the entrance, but it was as if the cave had swallowed her whole. But the bear was kind. He brought her food, day after day, perhaps week after week. She didn't know if weeks passed, months, perhaps years. And Kila began to forget. First, she forgot the llamas' names. Then she forgot what her home looked like. Then she forgot the names of her family. And then Kila forgot who Kila was, and she couldn't remember her name. Every day she would explore the corners of the cave, trying to find something that she did not know what it was. But one day, something new happened. She found a boy. A very odd-looking boy. From the belly button up, it was a little boy. From the belly button down, it was a bear. And this little boy looked up at Kila and shouted, "I am Ukuku. I am the son of the cave." And he seemed to be a mix of the world outside the cave of men and a mix of the world inside the cave of bear. But he could talk to Kila, and he could talk to the birds, and he could talk to the pumas, and he started to tell Kila stories from all over the world, and the mountains, and the birds, and the pumas. And these stories seemed to awaken something within Kila, some sort of memory of something. And one day, Ukuku looked at Kila, and the bear was curled up in the corner, for he also enjoyed Ukuku's stories. He cocked his head to the side and said, "You, Kila," though he didn't know her name, "you look like someone who has forgotten something. You need to see the sky." Sky. The word sky made Kila feel like she was remembering something. Ukuku took her by the hand and walked her up the cave in a way only he knew. And she saw the little prick of light at the opening of the cave, and the bear was following them. When they came out of the cave, the sun was so bright, it hurt her eyes, it burned her hair and her skin, and she couldn't open her eyes. And then she heard a sound. It was a voice, and the voice said, "Kila, is that you?" And suddenly, something in the young woman knew, Kila, that is her name. And she turned and looked, and she saw an old woman with long gray hair and wrinkly skin. And she heard that woman say, "Kila, I knew you would come." And in that moment, Kila remembered, yes, I am Kila. And when she remembered who she was, she remembered her mother. And they laughed and they cried and they hugged, and Ukuku clapped his hands. "Kila, that is who you are, Kila." And then the bear gave a sad growl from the mouth of the cave. Kila no longer feared the bear. She knew that he was as lost as she had been. She walked up to him, and he growled, "I'm sorry. I really meant to help you. And now you are free, but I am here, and I have no one to tell me my name." And Kila took the shaggy bear's head between her hands and said, "I will give you a name. You are Ukumare, the guardian of the mountain." And the bear grew tall and his chest puffed out, and he said, "Yes, Ukumare. That is my name, and I do not have to stay in this cave." And he began to climb the mountain. Kila invited Ukuku to stay with her, to grow up in her village, and he tried. But he was half bear. He was half wild. He would tear up the paper at school, and he couldn't stand to sit in a desk. And so he thanked her very kindly for the invitation, but he went back to live with the animals. But every full moon, this cave family would meet. Ukuku would tell the stories, Kila would bring the food, and Ukumari would let them both curl up and nestle into his thick, warm fur. And they've promised to never, ever forget each other's names. Names are a powerful thing. Do you know why you have the name that you have? That's a good question to ask a grown-up today. I love this story, and I would love to know what your favorite parts are, or what are parts you would change. What do you think happened next? If you could tell another story, what happened next to Kila? What happened next to Ukuku? What happened next to Ukumare? Think about those questions, and I want to know what your name means to you. If you find out why you have the name you have, put it in the comments below. Or if you have an idea of what happened next in the story for Ukuku or Kila or Ukumare, put a comment in the show. I want to hear how you keep telling the story. Thank you, and keep telling stories. Time to say goodbye. Miss Mo, Miss Mo, Miss Mo has got to go. 2 more, Miss Mo, Miss Mo, Miss Mo has got to go. Last time, Miss Mo, Miss Mo, Miss Mo has got to go. Bye.